Hey there, guys. We now have the unit information for Divine Archer Aang, and in this video, I'll be going over the unit, giving you my first impressions, all of that. So, I will say right off the top, it seems like Aang is a pretty good unit. He seems to be well designed. Some of the criticism I've personally had for units recently, they seem to have fixed it with Aang. As an example, last month with Murray, Murray is overall a good unit, but she did have that really major problem of she can't use all of her setup and her buffs in Clash of Wills because had way too many skills spread out across way too many stuff with only triple cast and very short durations. So Murray literally couldn't cast her skills in Clash of Wills, at least not all of them, because you just couldn't. You needed like 12 skills with triple cast, and it just wouldn't work. For Aang, they seem to have fixed that. I did a brief look, and the durations are good on Aang. A lot of the skills are consolidated. So yes, Aang, from what I can see, can do all of the setup you want to do in Clash of Wills without having to leave anything out. And just right away, that makes me, happy to see that. Anyway, as far as the unit... Oh, and his damage is really good, too. We'll see his damage, some calculations in a few moments. Now, the one criticism I will give is he doesn't have any categories, any special categories like Rebellion, Royalty, that kind of stuff. He does have Clash of Wills and then the generic stuff like, Water, Brave Exvius, etc. But, like I said, it would be nice if global units could get some categories, like real categories, not just the very generic stuff that doesn't mean a whole lot. I'm not really like the lore guy, but I'm sure Aang, he's the village chief. If he's the chief, isn't he like the lord of the village? Shouldn't he have the royalty category? You see what I'm saying? I don't know. It just feels like they should really give global units actual categories for stuff. Anyway, small nitpick. As far as his stats go, pretty expected for a non-premium. 601 attack power after pots. That's basically very common for non-premiums, Neovision's units. And passive resistances, very nice across the board, 50 or better. Immune to everything that matters except for paralyze, so you'd have to fix that, buff or gear if the boss is using paralyze. He can't use helms, so no Clash of Wills helms without the helm mastery materia, which is not that big a deal. I'm just pointing out, small nitpicks. Overall, the unit is still pretty good, though. Now, as far as the kit goes, he is an SLB unit, as we know, but he's got some really cool things in his kit. So, 150 water amp for Dark Visions. He's got a 180 for Clash of Wills. That'll be in the Clash only section. But yeah, nice. Triple cast, Absolute Mirror, and Bolting Strike for his chain frames. He's got these three skills, Avian Dragon and Fairy Mitigation and Killer for self only. He does have AoE, we're going to talk about that later, but these are usable anywhere. Personal killers, not that big a deal because he's got, better stuff for Clash of Wills. He does have 160 Bird Killer for everyone, even in Dark Visions. So that's his big AoE universal killer that you can use anywhere. In Clash of Wills, he does have Dragon and Fairy as well. We'll get to that in a minute. The usual stuff here, fire at 45 personal, water at 60 personal, and he does have the Fire in water spells as well to imbue the party on demand. Always nice to see that. Here's his modifier buff. So it's a 5-turn cooldown, 5-turn duration. So full uptime. And unlike Murray, who was a 3-turn duration, which was really a big problem with Murray, is like all of her buffs were 3 turns. And that was just like stupid. Whereas Aang's are like 5 turns. So it's way more flexible for setting up. Not to mention it's better for damage per turn because you're not taking like 1 turn out of 3 to recast everything. You see what I'm saying? So it's really nice to see that Aang has these 5-turn durations, not the stupid 3-turn like Murray had. Anyway, yeah, here's a modifier buff for his LB, which is his main damage. Here's his field on a skill, which is nice to see. Fields that are on on espers are a little irritating because esper fields obviously require your entire turn to activate, not to mention that they eat the entire esper bar. So having your field on a skill is a lot nicer. Now, just to nitpick, it would be nice if it was an on-demand skill, like, Deuce or Nora or 100 other units where it can just do their fields on demand. His is a cooldown. It is full uptime, so, there's no gaps in uptime, but, sometimes the boss will remove your field, and you got to replace it. Not as easy for Aang because he does have a cooldown on his field skill. He does have a way to reduce his cooldowns. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but even so, it would have been nice to see this on just an on-demand ability. And here's the really good skill that we kind of saw from the live stream. Permanent uptime, 5-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown, with LB damage 300 and all stats 400, even usable in Dark Visions, Trials, etc. That's really good. That's really good, and I'm so glad to see that it's a full uptime skill. And then he has these 2 Magnus abilities. These are actually pretty cool too. Only once per fight, but this one is a perfect dispel for all the enemies, and this one is a perfect dispel for our party. Removes debuffs only without removing our buffs. That's really cool. That's really cool. And then, of course, also got 1,000 morale per, so if you want to just blow these on turn 1 on a clash fight to really speed your way through a fight to fill the morale bar ASAP, you can do that. You can do that. That's really cool. So this is the kind of stuff I love seeing on a unit. These are not game-changing. These are not like meta-breaking, but they're very, very good abilities that you will absolutely find yourself using these during content in the game. Either Dark Visions, if the boss imperils you on turn 2, Aang can cure your party, etc. If the boss buffs themselves, you can remove it with Aang. Just really nice to see that kind of stuff on a unit that's not like a dedicated support. He's a damage dealer, and he's a good damage dealer too. But he has that kind of stuff as well. And this is just really what I personally feel like usually will set apart the unit design of a JP unit versus a global unit when it's done right, I'll say. Like a JP unit usually won't have this kind of stuff. They'll be just a very boring, very empty kit where they just deal damage and nothing else. Like Sephiroth was the perfect example of that whole unit design, like exemplified in the most pure form is Sephiroth. When he came out, he literally had no skills but 1 chain, an amplify, and his LB. That was his entire kit. I mean, he did good damage, but it was boring, it was dumb, it was not interesting. This kind of stuff I love to see, and this is the reason I usually love to see global units. Now, we do have globals that kind of misfire sometimes. I'm not going to name any, but we've definitely had some global units that have been not as interesting. But Aang does seem to be. Anyway, let's jump down here real quick to the Clash of Wills category. So in Clash of Wills only, or morale content, I should say, he's also got a 250 Fairy and Dragon Killer. Now, this one's a little bit more irritating because, as you can see, 3-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown. I'm not entirely sure why. Like, we were doing so good. We were doing so good. The whole kit makes sense. It's all perfect durations. 3-turn cooldown, 3-turn duration. 5-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown. And for whatever reason, we jumped down here, and whoopsie, we did 3-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown. Come on now. You were doing so good. Why'd you have to go off the rails down here? Anyway, so his killer is only partial uptime for the Dragon and Fairy Killer. It is 250 for the whole party. So, that's really good. Currently, Kaito does 200 for the whole party. This is 250. It's just straight up better. Well, with partial uptime. Kaito's is on demand. You can literally cast it nonstop. And then he has his 180 amp in Clash of Wills, as we know. And then, of course, his Vertex ability. It's not parsed correctly, but we do know it's a 30% amplify for the party. I didn't actually ask for confirmation from the Datamine guys if that stacks with existing amplifies. We'll have to find that out once the servers come up. Or after the video is done, I'll go and ask somebody if they can see it from the data mine. Anyway, in Waterga and Fyra, only 35%. For some reason, I don't know why they do this. We have 45% of these available. Like Ash, Dyna's Scion Ash, she has in Fyra Ja, or whatever it's called. It's 45. Why do they keep doing 35s? Like, come on. We're way past the point where a 45 would be overpowered. Just give us the 45. Anyway, we knew about his leader skill, 1,000 to all Clash of Wills units, which is nice. And then his LB, so Extreme Nova Chaining Frames, he has an SLB unit. Normal LB is 100 modifier lower than the SLB, so not that much worse, honestly. Slightly lower in peril. But here's his bow in peril, 40%. 700 plus the 150 above, so 850 modifier in Clash, and 650 modifier in Dark Vision. And then it decreases all his cooldowns by 1. So this can slightly help out with the awkwardness right here, if you line it up properly and all that. I still think this is totally unnecessary. Like, this is the only skill in the kit that has this irritation of 3-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown. It feels like they had a different person design this part of the kit. It's just really just, look at the picture and tell me what doesn't belong. This right here. But the cooldown reduction might help. And as far as the passives go, I mean, they're as expected, which is really good. They're good. The usual stuff, fill the LB at EX2, classic global thing, maximum chain cap at EX3, so chain cap here, chain cap here. So convenient, chain speed, we love to see it on global units, immune to stop and charm, natural guts, stuff like that. So yeah, all this is, good. Good stuff. Good stuff. And as far as the damage calculations, here's my early calculations. So at the current time, as expected, Aang is looking like the highest damage dealer for Clash of Wills. That being said, that is with his 180 Amplify, which he's the only 180 water amp, so cheating a little bit. I guess Rick has 180 to light, but, Rick's a year old at this point. Is he a year old? No, he's actually only like 7 months old. Close enough. And then in Dark Visions, we've got Aang right here, which is, okay, to be fair, it's a little far from the top, but like I said, you can kind of tell. I put Roos's calculations on my chart as well from JP, because, he's pretty much the closest parallel to Aang. So Aang does do more damage than Roos. Aang has a way better kit than Roos. So yeah, I can say that I think Aang is a much better unit than Roos. Now, the only thing I will point out, as I talked before, is Aang does not have Aqua Killer. So if you're really planning for a specific Dark Visions, which you probably shouldn't do because Global likes to change things, but in the conversation about that one specific Dark Visions where it was all Aqua, which we may or may not get, but for that one, Roos might still beat Aang just because he has Aqua Killer for the party. There you go. But still, I still think Aang is a way better pull, in my opinion. So yeah, good unit. Now, I've kind of talked about all the good stuff. Let's talk about the bad stuff. Well, then again, I was going to say, as far as a pure damage dealer, obviously he's not Neovisions Plus, which is getting closer and closer by the day. But he's really, for the most part, the alternative to Roos. And Roos is not Neovisions Plus either. So, yeah, he's not going to be like the big carry on the party. He's not going to outdamage the Neovisions Plus, Lastwell, or Paladins of Grand Shout and stuff like that. Or any global units that may or may not come, down the road. But as far as his support kit goes, I mean, that 70% field is really, really nice. And there it is right here. Like, this field is great. Now, that being said, 70% becomes the standard going forward. All the field units have 70 as we go forward into Neovisions Plus. So it's not like unique. Well, I guess it's unique right now, but it's not unique going forward. But it's still really good. So I personally do plan to pull for Aang. I'm also going to mention that he is the Elena, like a really good replacement for Elena in Clash of Wills. His LB is non-elemental, so he can go onto any party you want. He looks to be gearing relatively easily. He's got 1, 2, 3. He's got 6 killers for different races. So seems like a good unit. He is time limited. Keep that in mind. So if you don't get him in the next 2 weeks, you're never getting him, or at least not until next year at the earliest. But is he required? I don't know. I can't say. I will say he looks good. He looks good. So there's my early thoughts. Once the servers come up tomorrow, or potentially late tonight, I will live stream Clash of Wills, and we'll see. I'm gonna do polls as well. I'm gonna do my polls first, like I'm doing my polls first. I'm gonna record them, then I'm gonna go directly into the live stream for Clash, and then I'll upload the poll video after the live stream settles down and finishes. So the poll video will probably be Thursday night, or whenever the live stream's done. Anyway, there you go. So there's my thoughts on Aang. See you in a bit.